Right, this is the Nikon SB-23 Speelight. I picked this up from a charity shop. Oh, I think I paid about £10 for it. Let's try and mount it on this camera. And switch it on. Let's see. Turn the camera on as well, that's going to help. Takes about 3 seconds to recharge. Nice little flash gun. You'll notice that I mounted this on a film camera rather than digital camera, and that's because a lot of these old flash guns which were designed for film will actually fry the electronics. Theoretically, this won't. I've read a few reviews that said this should be fine. I don't really want to take the risk when I have perfectly good film cameras to test it on. So I'm going to have a little walk around the features, that won't take long, a little explanation of the guide numbers, and then this little beauty will go back in the box if I can ever get it off the camera. Come on, you can do this. Yeah. So, the Nikon SB-23 Speelight. As I said, it's not going to take that long to go through the features of this. The most important thing is the sensor on the front, which records the amount of light bouncing back from the subject and cuts that light off at the correct exposure. On the bottom I have the Nikon contact pins which will communicate with the camera, and on the back I have one switch. I have the options of off, manual or TTL. Most people will use this as TTL all the time. There's no other flexibility in this flash gun at all. However, it still does work very well. The guide number of this flash gun is 20. Okay, guide numbers. Guide numbers should be measured in meters for a 100 ISO setting on your film or your sensor. So the way that this works is that the guide number is equal to the aperture times the distance. Therefore, if you work it the other way around, if you are photographing something that you know is 5 meters away and it's got a guide number of 20, then you go 20 divided by 5, and that tells you that you should be using f4. However, that is assuming you're working in meters and you are using a 100 ISO setting on your camera. If, however, you're using a 200 ISO film in an old film camera, then your flash gun will extend further. It won't be double, it will be the square root of 2 further. So if, for argument's sake, your flash gun was to go to 1 meter, it wouldn't, but let's assume it's 1 meter, then square root of 2 is 1.4, so you then extend the range to 1.4. From 1.4, if you step up again from 200 to 400 ISO, then you're going to multiply by 1.4 again, and then you end up with, well, 1.4 times 1.4 is 2, because that's what the square root of 2 multiplied by the square root of 2 has got to be. And you end up with a sequence that becomes very, very familiar with us. It becomes the normal f-stop sequence of a camera. It goes 1, 1.4, 2, 2.8, 4, 5.6, 8, 11, 16, you get the picture. It's not magic, it's maths. And this flash gun will work just like any other flash gun. Now, on the automatic settings on this particular one, if I set my ISO 100 and I choose to use f5.6, then the range of the flash gun is 0.7 to 3.5 meters. That means anything between that one, the camera will shut off the flash gun when it thinks enough light has been reflected back from the subject to actually give a correct exposure. If I was to use a 800 ISO film and I wanted to use f8, then my acceptable range would be 1.3 to 7 meters. It really is very simple in use, and it does produce nice quality lights. Now, after saying all that, along with many other manufacturers, the guide number tends to be a little bit optimistic. So I would assume that it's not going to go quite as far as these distances on each one of the settings. But that's something that you can only try by trial and error. However, these things are selling on eBay for £40 to £50. This is very nice condition version. It takes 4 AA batteries, and this one is very nice. So Nikon SB-23 Speelight. Don't use it on a digital camera unless you're very brave or foolhardy. But if you want a good quality tiny light flash gun which isn't going to pump out an awful lot of power for a film camera, then you could do a lot worse than spend the money on something like this.